I didn't make a scene after the divorce. I just vanished. I sold everything that wouldn't fit in the bed of my old pickup, pointed it north, and didn't stop driving until my cell phone became a useless brick. My new home? 40 steep, densely wooded acres near the Idaho border, bought with cash. No neighbors for 20 miles in any direction. That was the whole point. The first month was pure, aching freedom. I built my own cabin, dug a spring line, rigged up solar panels. My one luxury was a shortwave radio, just for the distant, crackling voices at night. I told myself it was for emergencies. The truth was, I was terrified of the silence inside my own head. Everything changed in early November. I was splitting firewood when I saw them. Fresh, deep-tread tire tracks on the old logging road that skirted my property. Someone with a serious four-wheel drive had come in, stopped about 200 yards in, and turned around. I followed the tracks on foot to a known dumping spot. There was nothing there except a single, brand-new red plastic gas can, the price sticker still on it. I took it back to my cabin and left it on the porch, figuring someone would come back for it. 3 days later, the can was gone. In its place was a folded piece of notebook paper under a rock. The handwriting was neat, almost childlike. "Thank you. Need anything? Just ask." No name, and when I checked, no footprints leading away. None. That night, I caught a faint transmission on the shortwave. 2 men on a trucker channel, their signal bouncing weirdly like they were close. "Told you he's alone up there." Pause. "Doesn't matter." He took the can. "That means he's friendly or stupid." Laughter, then static. I shut the radio off and spent the night in the dark, my rifle across my lap, wide awake. The next morning, a second note was slipped under my door. "We left you a gift behind the woodshed. Don't waste it." Behind the shed was a cardboard box. Inside, 2 packages of freezer-burned ground beef that smelled metallic and wrong, and a fat roll of $100 bills, 40 of them, for $1,000. I burned the meat. I hid the money in a coffee can under the floorboards. Then I drove 45 minutes to the nearest town with cell service. At the feed store, the old man behind the counter went still when I mentioned the red gas can. "That'd be the Cook brothers," he said, scratching his beard. "They run meth up the old fire roads. Mean as snakes. Best stay shut of them." "How many brothers?" I asked. 3. Still breathing. Lost one a couple years back. Fell down a mine shaft or something. They don't like outsiders on their routes. I bought extra ammunition and drove home faster than I should have. For a week, nothing. Then, I woke to find my generator gone. Not stolen quietly, but dragged, leaving long, angry gouges in the dirt straight into the treeline. I followed the trail 50 yards into the woods, and it just stopped. The generator had vanished into thin air. I started sleeping in my truck with the keys in my hand. Then came the night of the singing. I was dozing in the cab when a low, slow man's voice drifted through the trees, singing some half-remembered hymn from childhood. A second voice joined, then a third, higher, almost laughing through the words. They were walking a slow circle around my clearing. I cracked the window. The singing stopped. A calm, friendly voice called out, "You still awake in there, buddy?" I didn't answer. "We just want to talk about the money and the meat." I started the engine. My headlights swept the trees, and for one single horrifying second, I saw them. 3 men, side by side at the edge of the light, all in identical dark green coveralls, their faces pale, smiling like they were at a church picnic. Then pop, pop, both headlights blew out at once. The engine still ran. I threw the truck in gear and floored it down the rutted track, branches whipping the windshield, and I didn't stop until I hit pavement 40 minutes later. I never went back for my things. 2 months later, a short article buried in a Montana paper reported that searchers had found an abandoned cook site deep in those same mountains. 3 bodies inside a trailer, each shot in the back of the head. The police called it a drug debt gone bad. They never found the killers. I still have the coffee can with the money. I've never spent a single bill. Sometimes, when it's very quiet, I take one out and look at the serial numbers. They're sequential, brand new, never circulated. I live in a city now with lots of lights and noise, but every time I smell lighter fluid or hear someone humming an old church song on the street, I cross to the other side. Real quick, some invitations you only get once. The rent kept climbing. The job was eating me alive. All I wanted was quiet, so I sold almost everything, bought a cheap patch of northern Idaho forest 2 hours from the nearest town, and built a tiny cabin from online plans. No power, no cell service, just a wood stove, rainwater barrels, and a dirt road that turned to soup half the year. It was perfect. I chopped wood, grew potatoes, read by lantern light. My only visitors were the 2 old brothers who owned the land next to mine, Tom and Ray. They'd stop by once a week in their rattling pickup to trade eggs for coffee, never staying long. Tom did the talking. Ray just nodded and looked at the ground. One afternoon in late October, Tom came alone, holding a paper grocery bag. "Ray's feeling poorly," he said. "Thought you might want these apples before they go bad. They were small and perfect. Thank you. Tell Ray I hope he feels better." Tom scratched his beard, not leaving. "You doing all right out here by yourself?" "I'm good. Really good." He looked past me into the cabin, then back at the trees. "Folks get lonely sometimes. Lonely does funny things to a man." I laughed it off. He left. 2 days later, I found boot prints behind my shed. Heavy, deep prints coming from the woods and stopping right at the wall. They didn't go anywhere else. I followed them 100 yards into the pines and lost the trail on rocky ground. That night, I barred the door for the first time. The next morning, the prints were back, even closer. Someone had stood there for a long, long time. I drove into town and asked at the little store if anyone had seen strangers. The woman behind the counter shrugged. "Only you and the brothers live up that way now. Been quiet for years." When I got home, my door was open 6 inches. Nothing was stolen. My food, my tools, my cash box, all there. But someone had sat in my only chair. The cushion was still warm. A week later, Ray showed up alone for the first time. He looked thinner, his eyes red-rimmed. "You got anything for a cough?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I gave him honey and whiskey. He drank it slow at my table. "Where's Tom?" I asked. "Home," Ray said, staring at the floor. "He don't like me coming over no more. Says I talk too much." "You're always welcome." He didn't look up. Some things a man shouldn't know about his own brother. He left without another word. That night I heard dragging. Slow, heavy, like something big being pulled across the leaves behind the cabin. I opened the door with my rifle ready. Nothing, just darkness. In the morning, I found a straight line of fresh blood drops leading from the trees to my shed door. I opened it. Inside, hanging from the rafters by its back legs, was a deer. Gutted clean, head gone, blood still dripping into a plastic bucket placed underneath. My bucket. The cut was professional. My hands shook as I cut it down and buried it deep in the woods. 2 nights later, 3 slow knocks at 2 a.m. Then 3 more. I whispered through the door, "Who is it?" Silence. I waited an hour. At dawn, I opened the door. On the step was a mason jar full of dark liquid, blood, and floating on top, a single human tooth. I drove straight to the brothers' place. Their truck was there. The door was partway open. I called out. No answer. Inside smelled of old meat and something sharper. Tom was in his rocking chair, facing the window. His throat was cut so deep his head tilted back at an unnatural angle. Ray lay on the kitchen floor in a lake of blood, his wrists torn open, a hunting knife still in his hand. On the table was a note in shaky writing. "He made me help." I couldn't know more. The sheriff came. They called it a murder-suicide. Case closed. I moved out the next week and sold the land for whatever I could get. Months later, I got an old newspaper article in the mail. No return address. From 1994. It described a young couple who vanished from that same stretch of forest. Their car was found running, doors open, groceries in the back. Drag marks led into the trees. They were never found. The article quoted Tom talking to the reporter. "People think the woods take them. Woods don't take nobody. Sometimes a man just needs to keep what's his. I live in a second-floor apartment now with neighbors on every side. I check my doors every night. Sometimes I wake up at 2 a.m. Sure, I hear 3 slow knocks. They never come, but I know one day they will." In 2018, my wife and I bought our freedom, 40 acres in the mountains of northern Idaho. No power lines, no neighbors for 12 miles. We built the cabin with our own hands, put in solar, dug a well. The first year was perfect. We grew our food, kept chickens, and loved the quiet. That changed one October morning. I was checking the fence line, 2 miles from the cabin, when I found a patch of ground that stopped me cold. The pine needles had been scraped away in a perfect circle, 10 feet across. In the center, someone had stacked rocks into a low cairn. The rocks on the bottom were still wet. There were no footprints leading in or out, just the circle and the cairn. I showed my wife the photo. "Probably hunters," she said, but her eyes stayed on the picture too long. That night, we heard chopping. Not a chainsaw, an axe. Steady, slow thumps coming from that exact direction. It didn't stop until dawn. A week later, I went back with my rifle. The circle was bigger now, 20 feet across. The cairn was chest-high, and someone had laid fresh pine boughs around it like a bed. And on top of the rocks sat a single work glove. My glove. The left one I'd lost months earlier while splitting wood. I knew it was mine because the thumb was worn through from the maul handle. I picked it up. It was warm inside. We left for town that same day. As we drove down the dirt road, I watched in the rearview mirror. Half a mile out, a man stepped from the trees and stood in the middle of the track. Tall, thin, dressed in old green army surplus. He carried an axe on his shoulder. He didn't wave. He just watched the truck until the road curved and he was gone. The sheriff's deputies found nothing. No circle, no cairn, no glove. "Maybe kids from the summer camp," they said. We went home. For 3 weeks, nothing. Then the chickens stopped laying. One evening, I found all 12 of them lined up on the fence rail, necks broken, their heads turned the same way as if they'd been watching the cabin. That night, my wife woke me. "Someone is in the house." We heard it then, bare feet on the wood floor downstairs. Slow steps, pausing, moving again. We waited at the top of the stairs, terrified. The steps stopped right below us. A calm, plain, gravelly voice floated up. "You left the door unlocked again." It sounded almost friendly. I shouted for him to get out. Silence. After 10 minutes, I crept down with the shotgun. Every room was empty. Both doors were still locked from the inside, deadbolts thrown. The next morning, every window of the cabin bore a perfect, large handprint on the outside glass, palm and 5 fingers, placed high up as if the person had stood on tiptoe. They were too big, far too big. We packed the truck and left before noon. On the way out, I stopped where I'd seen the man. Fresh boot prints crossed the road, heading toward our cabin. And right next to them, a set of smaller prints my wife's exact size. But she was sitting right beside me in the truck. People ask why we didn't fight, why we just ran. I tell them land is cheap up there for a reason. Some places already belong to someone else, and they don't like sharing. I left the busy world behind to build a small home deep in the Oklahoma woods. Just me, my tools, and the quiet. I grew my food, collected rainwater, and found a hard-won peace. It was free but lonely. That changed the afternoon the Wilson family drove up in their old truck. Tom stepped out first, tall, with a graying beard, friendly but tired. "Hello there. I'm Tom. This is my wife, Anna, and our girl, Lily. She's 6. Anna smiled wearily. Lily peeked out shyly, clutching a stuffed bear. They were from a nearby town, looking to buy land. "We want to live like you," Tom said, "away from all the mess. It's for Lily, better than city schools and noise." I showed them around, warning them of the hard work. We talked for hours. Tom asked practical questions. Anna shared canning recipes. Lily asked if I had a dog. When they left, I felt a real spark of hope. Good company at last. A week later, they were back, their truck loaded with boxes. They'd bought the plot next to mine, a mile through the trees. "This is it," Tom grinned. "Our new start." Anna hugged Lily. "No more worries." I helped them build a basic shelter. Tom worked fast, but sometimes would stop and stare into nothing. "You okay?" I'd ask. "Just thinking," he'd mutter. Anna always looked worried but stayed quiet. One evening by their fire, Tom opened up. "Back home, things were bad. Family troubles. My dad, he's not a good man, threatened us." Anna put a hand on his arm. "We're safe now." Lily played happily in the dirt, but a cold feeling had started to grow in my gut. Soon, I heard noises from their direction at night, not animals, but footsteps, crunching leaves and then stopping. I brushed it off as deer. Then, one day, I went over and saw Tom and Anna moving in a hollow, dreamlike trance, loading boxes into their truck without a word. Lily sat alone, watching. "What's going on?" I called. Tom turned, his face empty. "Just packing." "Packing for what?" Anna answered flatly, without looking up. "We're going to check something." Lily ran to me and whispered, "I don't want to go." Her eyes were wide with fear. The next morning, their place was silent, eerily silent. Their shelter door hung open. Inside, a half-eaten meal sat on the table. Clothes were folded neatly. No sign of them. I found their truck down the path. Doors unlocked. Their dog whined, hungry and desperate inside. On the seat, their wallets, their phones, and a thick stack of cash, thousands of dollars. Why leave that behind? I checked one of the phones. The last picture was of Lily sitting on a rock, looking up with pure, unadulterated terror in her eyes. Nothing else. I ran back to my cabin and locked the door. That night, the footsteps came to my clearing. Crunch, crunch, stop. I peered out with my rifle. Shadows moved between the trees. I heard a low, murmuring voice. I held my breath, finger on the trigger. The police wrote them off as maybe just having left. But with the money, the dog, the look in Lily's eyes in that photo, I knew. For years later, hunters found bones in those woods. 2 adults, 1 child. DNA confirmed it was Tom, Anna, and Lily. The bones were too old to determine cause of death. Murder over family trouble? A drug debt from cash they had? Or something else? No one knows. I still live here, but the quiet is gone. I check my locks twice. I listen for footsteps. The woods hide secrets, and now I know the hardest truth of all. Sometimes, getting away from it all doesn't mean it won't find you.